Hi friends and fellow flute enthusiasts, thanks for tuning in to Jonny's Flute Reviews. I'm Jonny Lipford, and since 2002 I've dedicated myself to everything flute. I teach, perform, and record full-time with the Native American flute. I post videos here on YouTube covering flute tips, tutorials, original songs, and cover songs to showcase how versatile the Native American flute is. If you're new here and interested in becoming a more emotive flute player, or you just love listening to the sounds of the Native American flute, be sure you subscribe and hit that little bell so you're notified every time a new video drops. Now, let's dive into a flute from my personal collection. Welcome back. In this episode of Jonny's Flute Reviews, we're going to be looking at two flutes made by Spirit Flutes. Now, these are some pretty unique flutes, a new design for Spirits Flutes. This is called their Spirit Flute, and you'll notice looks like there might be something missing, but there's not, and I'll explain. So both of these flutes are made from Spanish cedar, and it really, I think Odell's mission on this was to create something that was a little bit more compact. And what we find is that a lot of us love the sounds of the lower flutes, but what ends up happening is they get a little too large to play. Hurts our hands, hurts our wrists, that kind of thing. So we've got to eliminate something. We've got to be able to shift those finger holes closer to our mouth when we play. And there's not much that you can do with shifting these holes from a flute maker's perspective, shifting these closer, make them a lot larger. You'll lose and sacrifice something in the flute when you start to play around with the placement of the holes. So what Odell has done is basically eliminated the slow air chamber. And so there's no block tied on top and there's no slow air chamber. So really what a flute like this becomes is a whistle. So you'll see this design like a recorder or like a Irish whistle, something like that. They don't have slow air chambers. Instead, we kind of use our mouth for something like that. Now, I will say in the realm of Native American flutes, this is not a new concept. We saw this first with Stephen DeRuby. He's passed away more than a few years ago. And he was known for making a design very similar to this for his Easy Anasazi flutes. And he made some bass flutes with that design as well, and eliminating that brought things a lot closer for flute players. So just in contrast with something that has a slow air chamber, you know, this is one of Odell's E flutes. This is a little bit older design of his, and this is the Spirit Flute. So if you line up the splitting edge here, the sound hole, and yep, by the foot of the flute, so you've gained quite a few inches by eliminating the slow air chamber there. So it makes a big difference. Now, let's get into the sound here of what these guys are sounding like. So 6-hole here, they'll come, all Spirit flutes come with a strap over the 3rd hole from the top. So that way I like to think of it as a training wheel. It's good if you start out, but the quicker you can get away from that strap, the better. And you're starting to feel that because it opens up some new opportunity, like cross fingering and things like that. You get a little bit, you get more opportunity, I should say. So this is in the key of E. This is the E minor Spirit Flute. And already I can feel like it's close. It feels more like a mid-range flute, a little thicker, but where my hands are, it feels like a mid-range flute. comfortable. The mouthpiece on it, it's a nice size, so I don't feel like I'm having to, you know, blow through a straw necessarily. This is also quite comfortable, and this allows you to pivot as needed. So on my chin, I feel like I could hold it out if I wanted to, or I could bring it down, and this bottom here of it kind of touches my chin, and I don't feel that that's uncomfortable. So if I need to bring it and rest it on my chin, I can. Pretty responsive. So let's move over to the D. The D is just a little bit longer here than the E, so just by a couple of inches, not much. They do have large holes here, so you'll want to make sure that you're absolutely using the pad of your finger like we do with regular flute playing. So here we go. This is the D. So very nice. It eliminates, it serves two purposes with a design like this. One is it makes it a little easier to reach. So if you struggle to kind of play some of the bass flutes, which by the way, check out my video on YouTube for tips for playing the bass flute that could also be applicable for something like this. So it brings that reach a little closer for us, makes it a little bit more attainable to play a flute of this size. And the second thing that comes to my mind is for traveling. You know, they're a little shorter. I know when I fly to shows to give concerts and workshops around the country, one of the things that I have to do is I have to be very mindful of the flutes that I travel with. I like to keep them with me all the time. I don't check them in baggage, and I try not to put them overhead. So I try to keep them with me. I will put them overhead after everyone else has loaded their stuff into the plane, and make sure that there's nothing that's gonna like slide into it after takeoff or during touchdown. So with this, it really shortens. I have to pick the flutes because sometimes if I take a longer flute, it won't fit kind of beside me or when I'm carrying it and such through the airport. So just another thing to consider is it kind of brings that a little closer to a mid-range size flute as far as length is concerned. And so you might be able to travel with it a little easier. Well, I hope you enjoyed this flute review. I will put a link in the description below where you can find more information about these particular flutes made by Spirit Flutes. You'll also find some links in the description below for resources to advance your flute playing along your flute journey. That's one of my goals, is to help you become a more emotive flute player, and by that we sometimes need some tools and resources, and so be sure to check that out. Also, if you like this, please be sure to subscribe. I do regular publishings of flute reviews, tips, tutorials, original songs, and cover songs to showcase how versatile the Native American flute can be. So I hope you enjoyed this. I look forward to seeing you next time on Jonny's Flute Reviews. Take care.